Hello and welcome back to another episode of White Album 2. We are playing through the closing chapter on Chiaki's route. Now, Haruki and Setsuna have just gone into the very familiar jewelry store, not knowing, well, Haruki certainly knew, but Setsuna did not know that he'd been here before.
どうも、お久しぶりです。よく覚えてましたね。
ええ、一度お買い上げいただいたお客様のお顔は絶対に忘れませんから。
That can't be true, strictly speaking. Though to be fair, it'd be quite ridiculous of me to expect her to remember me after over 3 years.
春樹くん、ここ。
あれ。
As Setsuna felt puzzled about the situation, I pointed at the corner of one of the display cases. And Setsuna's reaction is exactly how I imagined it to be. She's now constantly looking at her left wrist and comparing what she's wearing on it with the item inside the display case.
今日もプレゼントをお探しですか？
ああ、いや。
でも、どうやら今日はこの前みたいに2時間以上も悩まなくても良さそうですね。
Oh, the saleskeeper is so funny.
ちょっと
Hey, busted.
ごめんね、春樹くん。私、全然空気読めなくて。
いや、読める方がおかしいって。
Everything's been completely exposed. The price of the gift I gave her, and the store I bought it from, as well as how long I ended up fussing over whether or not to buy it.
私全然気にしてないよ。それどころか、結構嬉しいハプニングだったかな。
そう。
I'm sure she's not lying. After all, Setsuna's been fondly stroking the bracelet on her left wrist ever since she walked out of the shop. She never stopped, even after she discovered that it was nothing more than a cheap product.
あの店員さん面白い人だったね。だいたい2時間もお客さんに付き合ってくれる人そんなにいないよ。
あの時も男の客は俺一人だったから、からかい半分だったんじゃないかな。
Oh no. Men go to jewelry stores all the time to buy stuff. That's not weird. The time gradually flew by as I found myself mesmerized by Setsuna's smile and cheerful tone. After meeting up at Suetsugu Station, we took the train to the city and shared a meal together. We remained in the restaurant until lunchtime ended, and then we went window shopping at the station building. We talked, laughed, and walked side by side without reservation, as if we had returned to how things were between us 3 years ago. No matter how I look at it, we've been on a date that's meant for us to make up with one another.
寒い。
ちょっとね。
そっか。
We'd been maintaining a complicated distance between one another throughout the past 3 years. That is, until 3 months ago, when our relationship finally broke down. And on the exact same day we collapsed, I committed the unthinkable by seeking the comfort of another woman. However, in only a month, I ended up being betrayed by that woman. The very same woman who slathered me all over with honeyed lies and tempted me to fall into the depths of hell. But in the end, the one who picked me back up and saved me without a word after I've fallen so deep was Setsuna, who's right in front of me right now. Honestly, thank goodness you're moving on, finally, though. She's the one who helped me recover physically when I was crippled by a fever. And she's the one who gave me the willpower to overcome the emotional scars that resurfaced due to that same illness.
なあ、せつな。ちょっと疲れないか？お茶でもどうかな？うん。 春樹くんがいいなら。
That's why our date meant for us to make up is still continuing. And it will keep going on for as long as Setsuna and I want it to. That's why, if we keep this up until spring arrives, and then summer, and then autumn, and if we promised now that we would share in the joy of finding our respective jobs, talking about the future, and celebrating our graduation together. Perhaps in a year from now, we'd even be able to welcome a bright future together. What optimism! So beautiful. The 3 years we've spent until now would be nothing more than a bad dream to us. Oh, what, you expect people to stand for 5 acts?
会場前から並んでる人数だけで立ち見が出るって分かってたからな。またしても動員記録更新したかな。
座長じゃないけれど、大学のサークル活動で終わらせるのもったいないかも。
瀬内明がいれば普通に外の箱でもやっていけるかもしれないな。
それも楽しいかもしれませんね。最初は赤字続きで辛いかもしれないけど、今みたいに地道に頑張ればファンだって。
で、あいつ気まぐれだからサクッと映画とかに行っちゃって内部崩壊。
Wouldn't that be a bummer?
リアリティありすぎです、それ。
田中。
参加は考えさせてください。
そうじゃなくてさ、今日のこと出るつもりで準備しておいてくれ。
まだ初日ですよ。
姫さん、なんかおかしい。
Yikes.
大丈夫ですか？
何が？
いや、ふらついてるように見えるんで。
それはあんたの見え方の方に問題がある。緊張しすぎて立ちくらみしてんじゃない？
冗談やめてください。そこまで緊張するほど準備不足じゃないです。
そう。
絶対に足を引っ張るつもりはないですから。一応信頼していいです。
吉田、
そこで鼻で笑わないでください。こっちのモチベーションに関わるから。
That's that lying smile.
別に笑うつもりはないよ。ちょっと話しておきたいことがあっただけ。
俺にですか？
あのさ、吉田。
は
あ。私は今からあんたが愛しくて愛しくてたまらなくなる。何があってもあんたを手に入れようともがいてあがいて、結局深みにはまって自情自爆になる。そんな愚かな女になってしまうから。だからあなたも数時間だけ私のことを本気で愛してください。そして愚かな女の選んだ結末に心の底から深く傷ついてほしいの。できるよね。
What an awkward thing to say right before the show. Like, what do you even say to that? Okay.
はい。
はいじゃなくて、うんだよ、和樹くん。
うん、わかった。
お待たせいたしました。劇団ワトス春の定期公演、届かない恋を開演させていただきます。
Here we go.
頑張ろう、ゆきね。精一杯楽しもう、俺たちのステージを。
ありがとう、和樹くん。愚かな女って誰が？小木曽刹那、東間和さん、それとも。
1, Scene 1. Nishimura Kazuki found himself troubled because a band competition sponsored by a certain musical instrument manufacturer was coming up next month. He had once vowed that he would make a debut with a major label company, but the band he had enlisted for the competition broke up due to a petty conflict caused by a female member of the group. Thus, Kazuki was left with nothing to do but practice with his guitar in an empty classroom at sunset. And all that accompanied him was the melody of a piano performed by an unknown pianist from the classroom next to the one he was in. But on that day, while enjoying his customary, carefree jam session with the neighboring pianist, Kazuki noticed yet another, unfamiliar sound joining in together with them. It was not the sound of a musical instrument, but the vibrant, clear singing voice of a girl, one that would perfectly fit the role that he desperately needed to have filled at the moment. Man, so surreal. Act 1, Scene 2. Her name is Hatsushiba Yukine. Blessed with popularity and good looks, she is easily recognized by anyone as the school's #1 beauty. She's also considered a mysterious student within her grade, given her contradictory personality of having a bright demeanor while also being rather distant in her relationships at the same time. But as for her true self, she's actually an amiable and family-oriented girl, and she can't bring herself to fully relinquish the label of being the school beauty that's been forced upon her, for she was just a little vain at heart. She also has a perfectly common hobby, karaoke. Nevertheless, she spends her days in discontent. Placed on such a high pedestal in school, she's had to change her pastimes and personality so as to not reveal her hobby to anyone. And thus, her hobby became karaoke. Rather, her hobby became enjoying karaoke by herself.
この曲の出だしのコード。
私知ってる。
へえ、弾いたことないのにわかるんだ。
2428の02でしょ。
は？
私のホームグラウンドってハイパージャムだから。和樹くんは X3600？ それとも P から？
何のコードだよ。
There were minor adjustments to the story's setting, but the opening act unfolded in a way that was almost identical to its original counterpart. However, the script's tone is also a lot more comedic in comparison, and the heroine was portrayed as being rather silly. The amateur singer who's good at singing but only has her cuteness going for her, and the stubborn guitarist who's knowledgeable but very mediocre. They didn't seem to be on the same wavelength during practice. As she continues to spend more and more time with Kazuki, Yukine's facade of a beauty placed on a high pedestal also gradually peels away. But at some point, she also comes to enjoy the fact that Kazuki can see through it and appreciate her true self. It's so beautiful. It makes me want to replay the actual introductory chapter again.
やだな、もう。私、あんなにおっちょこちょいじゃないよ。
Act 1, Scene 3. The group has now assembled a guitarist and a singer. Even so, they don't think that they have enough members yet. If they want to participate in the competition, they still require a bassist and a drummer at the very least. There's only 3 weeks left until the competition. That's why Kazuki is desperate for experienced candidates to fill the role of bassist and drummer. At least, that's how things should have gone.
それがなんでここに来ることになるんだ、西村。いや、
ピアノうまいな。
質問の答えになってないだろう。
The voice is very good.
これだけの腕があれば、3週間あれば余裕で間に合う。やった！キーボード見つけたぞ！
ベースとドラム。
冬木頼む。俺たちのバンドに入ってくれ。
お前、私と会話する気ないだろ。
パートなんかどうでもいいんだよ。それよりもメンバー同士の相性の方が大事だろ。
どうして相性がいいなんて思うんだ。
俺と合わせられるのはお前しかいない。
だから質問に答えろ。
俺みたいな下手くそをフォローするにはお前くらいの腕がないと不可能なんだよ。
自分の腕前を冷静に分析してるのは評価するけど、だったら身の程をわきまえろ。
Having the laugh track over White Album in general be a very fun mod.
それでも俺は冬木がいい。いや、冬木じゃなくちゃダメなんだ。
取ってつけたような追奨はやめろ。そういうの寒気がするんだよ。
けどお前だったんだろ。俺が一人きりで落ち込んでた時もずっと付き合ってくれてたあのピアノ。
知らないね。
Act 1, Scene 4. Her name is Fuyuki Haruna. With an infamous streak that's a stark contrast to Yukine's popularity, despite their rivaling looks, she boasts a dominant presence in the school. Though an unsettling one at that. She's an untouchable, a piano prodigy immune to any interference from the teachers due to her mother's influence as a famous pianist. But as for her true self, she's the mysterious pianist who always accompanies the protagonist's terrible guitar playing from the neighboring classroom. She's the one who sits right next to the protagonist in class, and she's actually quite compassionate despite her unapproachable exterior. Though her compassion only ever seems to be for Kazuki alone. He tried.
やり直し。
わかったよ。
お前、このくらいもノーミスで弾けない程度の腕じゃ一次予選のデモテープで落とされるぞ普通。
ああ、一次はもう通ってるから大丈夫。その時のギターは俺じゃなかったからな。
なんでこの私がお前なんかに巻き込まれてコンテストで笑い物にならなくちゃいけないんだ。自分のコンクールじゃ2位に落ちたことすらないのに。
本当にすごいんだな、冬木。
昔の話だよ。ほら、続けろ。
うん。
なあ、西村。お 前なんだってメジャーになんかなりたいんだ。頑張ってる割に全然上達しないのに。
What a weird thing to be watching as one of the original actors. That's crazy.
質問するかこき下ろすかどっちかにしてくれ。
じゃあ質問の方だけでいいよ。
そうだな、世界に自分の生きてきた証を残したいからかな。言ってちょっと待て、真面目に答えたのになんで殴るんだよ。
何うさんくさいこと真顔で言ってんだ。うわ、鳥肌立ってきた。気持ち悪い。
そんなにおかしいか。男なら一生に一度はそういう志を抱くものだとかそう思わない？
まだ女にモテたいとかいう理由の方が分かりやすくて好感持てるぞ。
前の仲間たちはみんなそうだったけどな。おかげで俺の志は腹抱えて笑われた。
だいたい生きた証なんか残したいか。自分が今ここに存在してることがそんなに嬉しいか。訂正、今のなし、忘れてくれ。とにかくまあご立派だこと、せいぜい頑張ってくれ。眩しすぎて私には理解できないけどね。
They've done a pretty good job with this, though, I gotta admit.
そっか、冬木には分かんないか。雪音は分かってくれたんだけどな。
雪音？
これからもずっと応援してくれるって。ファン第1号になってくれるって。現実的なんだよなお前。せっかく才能あるのにもったいない。もうちょっと自分の夢は大きく。うわっちょっとおい、理由を言え、理由を。
Fans of this theater group probably already know about what's going on, and they're enjoying themselves despite being fully aware of that fact. They knew that all of the main heroines in the play are portrayed by Senochi Akira. The fact that the story is set up in a way that neither of the heroines have any interaction with one another, and the fact that she's acting out both of their roles by herself, fully demonstrate her peerless skill as an actress. Up until a while ago, the famous actress was playing the first heroine who was bright and charming in character, but now she's portraying the second heroine who's gloomy and hostile, and she's really making the two roles feel distinct. I'd note, however, that she's also planned for this second character to behave just a little more violently than her real counterpart, just so her emotions are easier to understand in a stage setting.
カズさ、あんなに理不尽な子じゃなかったよね。
Although it makes sense on stage, you can't really see those like slight gestures like shoulders moving or the pout.
そうか、あんなもんだったぞ。そりゃもう怖いのなんのって。
Twisted as she was, the genius pianist possessed skill and knowledge that far surpassed that of the mediocre guitarist, and she continued to bully the latter under the pretense of special training. And yet he desperately clung to the said special training, as if he'd been waiting for those very days to come, and worked on improving his skills. With the two spending more and more time alone together, their hearts grew even closer. That's the sort of overly natural development the story had. The only unnatural thing about it, then, was the fact that it wasn't the only natural development to occur. Act 1 is ended. There's a 10-minute break.
よーし、いい流れだ。つかみバッチリだぞ。
お疲れ様です。はい、水分補給してください。
Wow, that's so crazy. Look at her hair.
姫、体調の方は？
何の問題もない。最初からそう言ってる。
そうか、ならいい。
どうですか俺。もう少しテンション落とすべきでしょうか。
いや、前半は今の感じでいいだろう。終盤とのギャップが際立つし。
瀬内さんどう思います？問題ないですか？
姫。
俺どこが悪かったですか？今ならまだ軌道修正効きますから言ってください。
吉田。
はい。
おい、二人とも反省会なら舞台が終わってから。
完璧だよ。
Aww, that's so nice to say.
はい？
滑り出しはかなりいい。走ってないし遅れてもない。私もやりやすい。今のままで頼む。
嘘。絶賛？
しかも瀬之内が。すごいことだぞこれは。
He was doing really, really good though, especially knowing Haruki, not personally, but as the player. You can tell it really sounds a lot like Haruki.
おい、ならなんでそんなに機嫌悪いんだ？
別に。単なる個人的事情。
脅かすなよ。一瞬凍ったぞ。
とにかく今のところ舞台の出来には満足してる。だから今私に話しかけるの。
姫、意味がわからないんだけど。
カップルでお越しになられますかよ。そういうことかよ。ふざけやがって。
I mean, you're the one that gave him a bunch of tickets, and you were the one that kept pushing him back towards Setsuna. So, I don't know. You don't really deserve the right to be mad.
瀬之内さん？
He also tried opening his heart to you when you ran out of his apartment yesterday, so, like, literally, you can't be mad.
いいよ、わかったよもう。これからもっとすごいもの見せてやるから、最後までお楽しみくださいってんだよ。
寒くない？
全然。それどころか熱気がすごくて。
Can you imagine that many people in one room? It's not gonna be cold.
そうだな。
The chairs have been taken out so the hall could accommodate more viewers, but the number of spectators is completely beyond the venue's capacity anyway. The hall is just about packed to the brim. Setsuna and I are among the crowd, and we're leaning against the wall at the back of the hall. We can feel the heat of the passionate performance, even though the heating should be off. The fact that a mere university drama club is able to incite such excitement among the crowd really speaks volumes about the troupe's talent. Or rather, it really speaks volumes about a certain someone's talent. It's only natural. The opening act was a little more than a generic romantic comedy, but it's really grabbed the crowd's attention and gotten a lot of laughs out of them.
まだ見てく。そうか。
Yeah, because now it's not gonna be so funny. If we weren't already aware of how things will unfold from here, and if things unfolding in such a way didn't only serve to hurt us, perhaps we would have genuinely enjoyed this just a little more. Act 2, Scene 1. The story progresses with the complex intersection of the relationship between Yukine and Kazuki, as well as the relationship Kazuki shares with Haruna. Yukine pouted like a child upon discovering that Kazuki and Haruna have been spending quite a lot of time alone together. Kazuki was confused about the matter, given that it was the first time that he had seen a girl feeling jealous. And the way he could only act flustered only caused Yukine to feel even more irritated. Haruna intervened and mediated things between the two, having felt exasperated by the ridiculous conflict between them, though she somehow also harbors feelings of uneasiness about the matter herself. At least, that's all I can say about this scene. For some reason, I'm feeling incredibly embarrassed about how innocent the two actors are on stage. And while I'm tilting my head downward, I cast a momentary sideways glance. And I notice that the person right next to me also has a bright red face, and her head is lowered at the same angle as mine. Act 2, Scene 2. They're so cute. For now, this is really nice. Let's enjoy it while it lasts. Alright, we will stop there for today. Thank you so much for being here on this chapter of White Album 2, and I'll be back to you with more shortly. Until then, I hope you take care. See you!